The first hint of dawn stretched over the valley like a trembling breath when Elena stepped out of the truck, her boots crunching on the frost-bitten gravel. The air held that muted chill that seemed to quiet everything it touched, including the doubt swirling in her chest. She tugged her jacket tighter, feeling the frayed lining brush her wrists, a reminder of how close everything in her life had been unraveling these past years. Lily stood beside her, small hands tucked into two thin sleeves, her gaze darting with nervous curiosity toward the ramshackle barns clustered across the auction yard. A crow cawed from a sagging fence post, its wings slicing the dimness as if warning them to turn back. But Elena kept walking, each step deliberate, each inhale steadying her resolve, though she didn't yet know why. The auction yard smelled of damp hay and old despair, the kind that clung to the bones of anyone who lingered too long. Men with weathered faces murmured to each other as they passed, eyeing Elena and her daughter with the softened pity reserved for those visibly struggling. She ignored the stares. She had become adept at wearing invisibility like a coat. No complaints, no explanations, just quiet survival. But something about this morning buzzed strangely beneath her skin, as if she had stepped into a moment that had been silently waiting for her. Lily tugged her sleeve. "Mom," she whispered, "I hear something." Elena paused, listening. At first there was nothing but the wind brushing against a metal siding, but then, faint, fragile, a small whinny drifted from the farthest pen. It was the sound of something trying, failing, and trying again. The kind of sound Elena recognized too well. They moved past horses taller, stronger, and far more desirable, each one already marked with numbers and notes. But Lily kept urging her forward, as though pulled by an invisible thread. When they reached the final enclosure, Elena froze. Inside, huddled in a corner, stood a foal so gaunt it seemed held together by sheer will. Its ribs jutted sharply beneath a dull, dirt-streaked coat, and its legs trembled with the effort of staying upright. Its eyes, sunken, exhausted, lifted slowly toward them. Elena felt something inside her shift, almost painfully. She had never believed in moments choosing people, but a way that Foal looked at her, quiet, pleading, unblinking, made the world narrow until nothing else remained in focus. It was like staring at a reflection of every fear she'd kept hidden, fragility disguised as stubborn hope. The auctioneer, busy rearranging paperwork, glanced at the foal with indifference. "That one's barely worth the feed it would take to keep it alive," he muttered to another man, surprised it's still standing. They laughed lightly, unaware of the way each word struck Elena like a stone. Lily pressed her hand against the railing. "He's scared," she murmured, "like we were." The simplicity of the statement cracked something open in Elena. She swallowed hard. She hadn't realized how tightly she'd been holding her breath for the past year. Through the bills, the silence, the empty chair at the dining table, the lonely winter nights that felt endless. She hadn't realized how deeply she'd been grieving the life she once had. The bidding for the foal was almost an afterthought. No one raised a hand. No one even stepped closer. Elena felt her heartbeat in her throat. She knew she had no room, emotionally, financially, in any sense of practicality. She knew buying a dying foal with the last of her savings bordered on madness. But the idea of walking away felt like allowing another fragile thing to fall apart simply because she was afraid. Before she could think, before she could reason, her hand lifted. A quiet gasp rippled through the few people watching. The auctioneer blinked as if assuming she was joking. When he realized she wasn't, he shrugged and slammed the gavel with almost theatrical disbelief. "Sold." The word echoed louder than it should have. Lily squeezed her arm in breathless excitement, while Elena's stomach dropped in a wave of icy panic. $300. Nearly everything she had left, gone in one motion that felt both reckless and painfully necessary. As she approached the foal, he shifted weakly, his legs wobbling beneath him. She reached out slowly, letting him smell her hand. His nose was cold, his breath shallow, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned forward, not out of strength but trust. That simple gesture steadied her trembling heart more than any reassurance from another human could have. Loading him into the trailer took nearly 20 minutes. Each time he faltered, Lily whispered encouragingly. The foal responded with a tiny flick of his ears, barely perceptible but full of will. Elena guided him gently, feeling the weight of responsibility anchoring itself inside her. The drive home unfolded in a tense quiet. Elena kept glancing into the trailer mirror, watching the fragile silhouette sway with each bump in the road. She worried he wouldn't survive the trip. She worried Lily would be devastated. She worried she had made a mistake so huge it would ripple through their lives like a slow-moving disaster. But beneath the fear was something else, small, tentative, persistent. Hope, the kind she thought had died with her husband, the kind she believed she no longer deserved. When they finally arrived at the small barn behind their worn-out rental house, the sun had fully risen, warming the valley in soft gold. Elena and Lily worked together to settle the foal into fresh straw. He collapsed almost instantly, sides heaving with exhaustion. Elena knelt beside him, brushing dirt from his neck with gentle strokes. "You're safe now," she whispered, though she wasn't sure she meant it for him or for herself. Lily crouched opposite her, eyes shining. "Can we name him?" Elena hesitated. Naming something meant investing in its future. It meant believing it had won. The foal shifted slightly, his thin tail twitching in response to their voices. Without lifting his head, he let out a soft, broken sound that tugged at Elena's heart. "Chance," she said finally, "because he deserves at least one." The foal's ear flicked again, as if acknowledging the name. A sudden thud outside made Elena jolt. She rushed to the barn door, opening it to find her neighbor, Mr. Hadley, standing with crossed arms and a disapproving glare. His voice carried the irritation of someone convinced they knew better. "I heard you bought that skeleton from the auction. You're throwing money into a grave." Elena stiffened. Before she could respond, another voice chimed in, Mrs. Collins from across the road, shaking her head. She can barely afford to feed herself and that child. What's she thinking? The words stung sharper than she expected. Shame rose, familiar and unwelcome. But behind her, Chance let out a weak but determined whinny, as if defending her. Elena stepped out fully, her shoulders lifting in a quiet defiance she hadn't felt in years. "I'm thinking," she said calmly, "that some things are worth saving." The neighbors exchanged skeptical looks, but said nothing more. They walked away, muttering under their breaths. Elena closed the barn door with trembling hands, her heart pounding with equal parts fear and conviction. When she returned to Chance's side, he was struggling to lift his head again, as though drawn to her presence. She knelt, cupping his fragile jaw, feeling the faint tremor of effort beneath his skin. For a moment, their eyes met, the exhausted animal and the exhausted woman, both hanging by threads, both quietly refusing to give up. And in that stillness, as a gust of wind rattled the barn walls, Elena felt the shift she hadn't known she was waiting for. Tiny, electric, undeniable. This wasn't just a rescue. It was a beginning of something neither she nor the world around her could yet comprehend. Chance exhaled, leaning his weight into her hand, choosing her in the only way he could.